Hello, welcome back. Right, finally after a good couple of months I'm able to get another comparison video done, and as you can see, got the Commodore 64 set up there. It's Arkanoid, which I'm going to be showing you in order on the MSX, BBC Micro, Amstrad CPC, ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64 at the end. Now I don't know what other systems it came out on, please fill me in on that if you happen to know. Based, of course, it's an arcade conversion of Taito's arcade game from 1986. Did have a couple of sequels, but I've never played any of them. I don't think I've played this much, if at all. It's not my particular favourite style of game. I did play Batty quite a lot on the Spectrum, which came out on a Your Sinclair cover tape and also part of the Elite Hit Pack compilation, I think it was. And it happens to be Vilord Such's favourite ever Spectrum game, his go-to and the first thing that he would choose to load onto any Spectrum emulator on any kind of modern devices. He said that himself. As ever, the aim of it is just to show you the different versions together. I'm absolutely hopeless. I make no apologies for the fact that this video will go on for about 40 minutes for basically what is a bat and ball game. It's just that I've been away from doing these comparisons for so long. I've tried to have to fill in my sort of production with other content, reading magazines and rambles and waffles, etc. Really happy to have found a small window while we've got a gap in between all the work being undertaken to actually get some more comparisons done, get the computers back out of boxes and onto the desk, as I've sort of said before, and just get back on with it. It's all for a laugh. It's all just something to hang discussion and conversation off of. If you're familiar with any of the versions, I'm extremely happy to hear your thoughts and memories of the particular version you know of, together with what you think about how that version compares with the others that you're going to see if you're unfamiliar with them. Right, let's get into it. Okay, here we go. Arkanoid for the MSX. The MSX is the new boy in the collection, so the MSX gets the honour of being the first system up in this comparison video. I'm not overly familiar with the game. I wasn't a huge fan of the bat and ball style games. I did, of course, play Through the Wall on the Horizons tape that came with the original rubber key 48 that we got, and also played Batty, Vilord Such's favourite ever Spectrum game, which was a free game, Your Sinclair cover tape. Now this is going to prove a bit tricky, this video, because this particular MSX has a bit of a temperamental left arrow key, and sometimes I've really got to put effort into pressing it to get it to do what I sort of want to do and go where I want it to go. Now, as you can see, it's happening there. Now, it's a very colourful game, the MSX version. Sounds nice. To start with, when I first played it, I thought it was a little bit slow and sort of sedentary in pace, but it does sort of speed up quite a bit, as you can see. Oh, and I just got the laser gun there. Now, there are a sort of number of power-ups that sort of drop down when you destroy the blocks. You've got your laser beam. You've got multiple balls. You've got a sticky bat, or sticky balls. Grow up, Baz. You've got the extra long bat, as you can see there. You get extra lives as well, and there's also one that can open up an escape to the next level. A sort of portal opens up in the right of the screen, and will let you sort of whiz through to the next round. Now, yeah, this is, as far as for me not being a particular fan of the type of game, this isn't bad at all. As you can see, what I meant there when I said it's a bit slow, it's sort of trudging along a bit sort of for now, but yeah, it's by no means unplayable. It's a nice version of the game. Now, I'm not sure who handled the MSX version of this, whether or not it was released by Imagine like the other versions were, or you know, someone else completely handled the MSX version. Not sure, but if you do know, let me know, because I would be interested to sort of know that. Now, oh, right, so I've got the laser beams now. Oh, come on. Oh, I had the laser beams. I haven't got them now. But that comes in sort of useful for helping you sort of complete the level much quicker. Let's see, let's hope I can get off the first level for the MSX version. Now you can see there, you might not be able to see, you see I've got a meanie sort of going around there that comes out from the top of the screen, sort of hunts down your sort of vehicle, your spacecraft. And if you don't manage to sort of get rid of it, it can be a sort of pain in the backside. But they're quite difficult to see on this background. Now, I never knew this game in the arcade. It wouldn't have been the kind of game I sort of looked out for anyway. But did you know it? And if so, what was your sort of thoughts on it? Oh, come on. Come on, Baz. Come on, Baz. Do something right for once. Oh, he's got it. Yes, stop scratching the bloody sofa, Cat. Ah, cats, eh? At least he hasn't jumped on the desk yet. Right, so we're on to level 2, and the sort of quite garish graphics here. But still nice and colourful, don't get me wrong. But would I sort of recommend this to anyone as an MSX owner to sort of try out? Yeah, because, you know, it's not a bad game. Like I say, oh, flipping heck. It's frantic, certainly. Give it that. And you can see we've got some... the sort of baddies seem to be the same colour as the background, which can make them sort of tricky to spot. Now, I can just about see them, and I don't know if you can see them. But anyway, it is what it is, and we've got to live with it. So, I just wonder, I mean, you're going to be seeing this game on the BBC Micro, Spectrum, Amstrad, and Commodore 64, as well as MSX. But I just wonder what sort of other systems it came out on. Does seem to have been one of those games that got converted onto most systems. I don't know. Is there a Commodore 16+4 sort of version? That's not too bad a game at all, the MSX version of Arkanoid. I thought that was quite enjoyable. Okay, let's move on. We'll see you in a sec. Okay, we're going to look at Arkanoid on the BBC Micro now. Now, yet again, I'm surprised at just how many arcade conversions this machine actually enjoyed. There's Spy Hunter that I haven't tried out yet. This, Yeah Kung Fu. Unfortunately, that file doesn't work on this disc that I've got in. Mikey Tapper, both great games. Right, let's get into the BBC Micro version of Arkanoid. ZX Left and Right, Return for Fire. This version looks absolutely great, and it sounds wonderfully loud, as only BBC Micro games can. And it is quick. Now, you can see the difference between this and the MSX version is how sort of narrow the screen is. Now, I don't know how accurately that might be sort of representing the arcade version, if at all. But it does look great, you must admit. Ah, that was going to be the thing for the next level. Sod it. But it's just so tough. Now, I don't know... Ooh, oh my God, 3 balls there, and I missed a lot of them. Right, it's very responsive controls. It's me, my reflexes not being as responsive as the controls that's causing the issues here. This gets quite tricky quite quickly, as you can see. Now, BBC Micro owners, I am interested, of course, to hear your opinions of this version of the game. Whether or not it's one that you had, whether or not you were ever aware it existed. Oh, I got an extra life and then lost it straight away within seconds. What's the point of that? Oh, come on. Yikes. Ah, that's an extra life. I'm not going to get it in time. Oh, come on. Ah, now there just seemed to be a bit there where it the ball seemed to go through the end of the bat there. Well, that's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So that's the elongate. Oh, come on. Whoa. Jesus, this is... It might not look that fast to you, but to me it's really... really challenging. And just look at the sort of animation on the baddies at the top up there. It's wonderful. Proof that, you know, yet again, that the BBC Micro was a very viable gaming platform in the right hands. Some wonderful software exists for it. Let's see if I can sort of... No, I can't. Let's try and get up there. Now I've got my sticky bat. Very, very impressed with this. Oh, fuck off. Come on, I'm doing really well there. Ah! There was a laser coming down as well there. I could have got that and shot the rest of those blocks. Now, I mentioned never having seen this in the arcade. Oh dear, or played it. Did you? Right, there we go. That's Arkanoid, a really quite impressive version of it for the BBC Micro. So, let's move on. See you in a bit. Okay, right, here we are. More familiar territory for many of you, I would think. The Amstrad CPC version of Arkanoid. Now, me being the total clown that I am, I appear to have downloaded a Spanish version, but it doesn't really affect things too much. So let's get into it. Z, X and space B the controls. Press 1 for one player. Let's get on with it. Coming in. So again, as we see with the BBC Micro version, a very nice and colourful version. The ball, for some reason, is transparent, and I'm not sure why that is. But it, you know, it's not too bad. It looks very nice and colourful, like I said, and it's moving okay. Although you can detect some slowdown, especially now there are 2 balls on the screen. In fact, it slows down quite a bit. Now, Amstrad owners, please, your memories, thoughts and recollections of this version of the game. Is it one that you had? Did you like it? Did you loathe it, etc.? I have been playing this for about 10 minutes and don't find it a bad version of the game at all. It's quite nice sound-wise. The controls are responsive enough. But like I say, there is that touch of slowdown going on. But some nice colourful explosions up the top there. Nowhere near as fast as the BBC version. That's not particularly a bad thing. Because that at times got a little bit unmanageable for me. But this is more sedentary in pace. Like the MSX version. Although much nicer colours on display. Let's see. Come on, Baz. Can you get past the first screen of the Amstrad version? We shall try. We can but try, can't we? That's all we can do. Right, so we've got my sticky balls. Ah! Oh! And I lost sight of the ball there. Sometimes it gets a little bit difficult to see against the background. But it's not something that occurs an awful lot. But is a bit of an inconvenience when it does happen. Now, as you can see, the baddies can be a little bit tricky to spot, being the same colour as the backgrounds there. Especially when they come down the screen and you've got to keep an eye on them. Just let it do its thing for the moment. Now, there is a sequel, isn't there? Arkanoid 2, and looking at the files I've got downloaded, on the USB stick on this thingy, there are about 3 or 4 different versions, but I'm not sure whether or not they're sort of like homebrews. There's an Arkanoid 3, 4 and 5, so Amstrad owners, please, you're the experts on those matters, please let me know. But it's not playing too badly at all, not playing too badly at all. Oh! Whoa! Ah! We'll give Spanish Arkanoid another go, because it's quite decent. Come on. Right, we want one player again. Nice little jingle going on there. Oh, doing okay so far, but I'll likely have just jinxed myself by saying that. Ah! Yes, I certainly did. Come on. Oh! See, it doesn't like there being an awful lot happening on the screen. You see I've got 3 baddies moving about up there, and therefore the ball is going sort of slower. And that's actually making it a bit more easier to play. Come on. Not sure how well a game like Arkanoid is lending itself to a video, whether or not it's quite dull to watch someone play it. It's not a shoot 'em up, or a sports game, or a driving game, etc., or a fighter. Hope it's translating okay. Right, they're out now. They're going to be a pain in my backside. Oh, swines. Oh! Ah! Right, I think I'm on my last life, in which case after that we shall wrap up and move on to one of the final 2 versions. Oh! I'll have that. Thank you. Now see here, the baddies are different colours to the background, but they're still pretty indistinguishable from it. They're quite sort of tough to see because of the design that's going on in the back. Oh, I've got the gun. Oh, that's handy. Oh, come on, Baz. Oh, shit. Right, this is definitely my last life. Let's see if I can go out in a blaze of glory. Come on. Oh, I got an extra life. Oh, and I've lost it. Yay. Oh. Ah, I got the laser there. I could have finished that off. Right, that was the Amstrad version. Not too bad at all. Hello, welcome back. Right, let's see how the Spectrum version fares against what's already been seen. MSX, BBC Micro and Amstrad. Just one more to go after this, which is the Commodore 64 version. So let's get into the game. Now, controls are a bit weird. ZM left and right, and enter for fire. It's very nice and colourful in the Spectrum's own sort of way. and it moves really quite nicely. Sound-wise, there isn't much to it, but it can get frantic. And again, Spectrum fans, your memories, etc. Now, I know amongst the Spectrum community there is a Arkanoid versus Batty argument as to which is the better game, and I think a lot of people, most people, prefer Batty over this, and it is a sort of fantastic game. But I'm kind of new to the Spectrum version of Arkanoid, and, you know, it's not playing too badly at all. Everything's moving around nicely. The issues that I mentioned with the MSX and Amstrad versions about the bad guys being sort of difficult to spot don't seem to be a problem in the Spectrum version here. As you can see, everything's nice and sort of visible. You know, you can sort of see them even out of the corner of your eye. You don't really sort of have to be concentrating too... Oh, fucking hell, that was starting to go really quick. They're not difficult to spot, and, you know, you don't find yourself sort of having to strain your eyes trying to find them, because you've got to keep an eye out on them because they deflect the ball away like that. And they are much easier to see in the Spectrum version. That's not to say that they broke, that particular issue broke the game on the MSX and Amstrad. It didn't, of course, but it's nice to see here that it's not an issue, because it really is making the game that much more playable. So go on then, Specky fans. What were you? Were you Arkanoid or Team Batty? That sounded really, really weird, but never mind. Yeah, it's a good, fun little game. Oh, decent version of it. Very well programmed, put together, nice looking. Just basic sort of beeper sounds, but then it doesn't really need anything sort of different, really, does it? It's just, the game is what it is. You know, sometimes you don't need to tart up a simple game too much, because it detracts from what the game's actually about. Oh, you clown. That was aiming for that one. Let's see if that one gets it. No. Oh, look, missed. Oh! Always the last couple, isn't it? That's a pain in the arse to get. Ah. Oh, come on. Now, as you can see, this is moving sort of quite nicely. There's no slowdown at all, even though there's 3 baddies on the screen there. That moved quite... Oh, I moved the wrong way. Let's have another go at that, because that was quite good fun. Let's see how I do this time out. Again, you have to sort of race to... what do? Do you get the ball, or can you make it to the power-up? Invariably, I never do. I always cock it up and end up losing a life. Oh, blimey. Start as you mean to go on, Baz. So, yeah, never played the sequel. But this is playing really, really well. Oh my God. So you can see now on the Amstrad version, that slowed down quite a lot when there were multiple balls on the screen, but there was nothing on the Spectrum there. It kept its pace up nicely. Now we go bouncing around the screen for a bit. Oh. Now, of course, most of us all sort of started on this kind of game. If you had a sort of Binatone arcade game, you had a version of Pong. You got Spectrum, you know, as I mentioned in one of the other segments, it was Through the Wall on the Horizons tape. So, you know, this type of game does have a... oh, wow, that was great. Does have a sort of place in sort of Specky history. You know, because, like I said, it's part of the sort of pack-in with the original Rubber Key 48. There were multiple magazine listings of variants that you could type in, etc. And I'm not sure if I even had one on ZX81, because ZX81 was the very first computer I had in 1983 of all things, and I'm pretty sure there was some sort of breakout clones on that. Oh, for God's sake, totally missed that one. So yeah, they have a place in Specky Law games like this, I suppose, on other machines as well. But well, there we go. There was the Spectrum version of Arkanoid, and it was really quite enjoyable. Right, so we've only got the one more version to go, which is going to be the Commodore 64. So we'll get that set up and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, and here we now have the Commodore 64 version of Arkanoid, which I'm going to have a go at. Again, Commodore owners, please, thoughts and memories of the game. Right, brilliantly, this is one of the few Commodore 64 games I can play with a keyboard. Uses both shift buttons, the left and right shift button for left and right, space for fire. So just got to select K for keyboard, space, off we go. Right, oh, let's try and work myself some room here. Really quite impressive sort of music going on, and that sort of animated intro, which I don't think we saw on any of the other versions, make this impressive already. Now, looking at it graphically, it's quite sort of dark, blocky, and although it's colourful, the colours look a bit not spectacular. But the game doesn't look horrid, and it certainly is the best sounding of all the versions. As you can see, there's that kind of see-through ball thing again that we saw in the Amstrad version, and the bad is moving around at the top. You can see again we've got that issue where they can be a bit hard to sort of keep track of and spot, because they're the sort of same colour in the background. Now, we didn't have that problem with the BBC Micro version and the Spectrum version. They were sort of well defined separately, and you could sort of keep your eye on them. But this is moving well, it's playing well, it sounds good. Yes, it's a bit ugly, but it certainly doesn't break the game at all. But as ever, what I'm interested in is how the different sort of versions compare amongst themselves, what the similarities and sort of differences are, and their strengths and weaknesses. Now, I can definitely say that you know, this is just as playable as the other versions. The keyboard controls are nice and responsive. I haven't even tried it with the joystick. I don't like playing with joysticks, as I've said before in the past. I'm absolutely hopeless with them. Not much better with keys. But yeah, so just having a sort of look at this now. I'm going to be sort of in some videos revisiting some of the games that I've done, and sort of revisiting some of the multi-format videos that I've done, because obviously now I've got the MSX as well. There were some versions of the games that I've already covered on those. Now, it's up to you whether or not you want to see rejigged videos, all the versions again, including MSX versions, or whether or not you think it's just easier to just do the MSX as a standalone and just link to the previous video. Personally, I'd prefer to do all the versions in one video, but if people think that it would just be a sort of like waste of time and sort of retreading old ground, then by all means let me know, and I'll sort of consider it. But yeah, the question is, it doesn't really sort of matter how the game looks if it plays all right. And there's not an awful lot wrong that I'm finding with the C64 version of Arkanoid. I don't think if you were a fan of the arcade machine back in the day, and you were a fan of the type of game, you'd have been disappointed with this. Now, I don't know how it was received in the Commodore press, whether or not it was favourably received, or people thought it was a little bit meh. Perhaps you can sort of fill me in on that. But as you can see now that the sort of aliens are coming sort of down the screen, they are very, very difficult to resolve. And like I said, that's something that we've seen in other versions. I'm going to try and get onto the second screen of the Commodore version. But yeah, it's I wouldn't have been unhappy with this. if I was a sort of fan of the genre, a fan of the arcade game, and had a Commodore 64. So let's get into it. Well, hit me, baby, one more time. Right, there we go. Also, let me know what the video quality is like, because I've bought a new sort of phone, just a cheap old Motorola phone to do the sort of videos on, because the Huawei Mate 20 Pro that I have, although its camera is fantastic and it can do 4K, it only does like 10 minutes of it. Otherwise it will shut down because it overheats. And those naughty Huaweians have designed a different kind of SD card that means you can't sort of like use the SD cards you've got everywhere else, dozens and dozens of them lying around. You've got to buy their own sort of one. And I thought, seeing as I'd spent all that money on the phone, I sort of objected spending even more on a sort of new style memory card. So I just went out and bought 150 quid Motorola G7 Power, just for the purposes of using it to sort of record videos with. And I think it looks okay, but you know, as far as like pointing at the screen and recording, my sort of like low-tech approach to things, let me know how you think it looks, whether or not there's any kind of dip in quality or whether or not it's perfectly adequate for the task, because I am interested in some feedback on that. But this is not bad at all. In ways, when it's moving sort of quite slowly like this, it's quite sort of therapeutic. It's when the ball starts whizzing about like an arsehole that things get a bit stressful. Oh, for God's sake, Baz! But not bad at all. Yeah, I'd say if you hadn't played it before, and you're after a game you can just spend 10 minutes on, no more, 10 minutes at a time. Yeah, go for it. One of the sort of more successful arcade conversions. I think. There we go. That's nearly 7 minutes of the Commodore 64 version of Arkanoid. I won't try and get any further, because this video, together with the intro and outro, is going to be nearly 40 minutes long, I think. Okay, right. See you in a sec. Okay, there we go. We're at the end, finally, of the Arkanoid marathon. Do you know what? Although I said that it wasn't my particular favourite style of game, for a quick sort of 10-15 minute blast, it's actually quite fun. And apart from some of the graphical issues that I mentioned in some of the versions, I thought the MSX and Commodore 64 versions were a little bit ugly compared to the other ones. I didn't think the game played badly at all on any of the systems. It was a good, sort of clean, fun game to play. Frustrating and rewarding in equal parts. Surprises. I was very surprised at, again, how well the BBC Micro fares its version alongside all the others. I think it's certainly the prettiest of the versions. A bit too manic for my liking at times. It absolutely whizzes past. And we've seen before in the BBC Micro version of Iridium how insanely fast the BBC seems to be able to get in some kind of styles of games. And I think, yeah, on that, graphically impressive, but it was a bit too fast for my eyeballs, but still a really, really good game. MSX and Commodore 64, like I said, bit ugly in comparison, but absolutely nothing wrong with the gameplay. I'd have liked to have not been stymied so much by having a sticky left arrow key on the MSX. But having said that, it didn't break the game at all. I found it quite enjoyable to play. The Amstrad version, very pretty, very nice. Slowed down a bit in places, although I'm not sure whether or not that was to do with there being too much on screen at any one time, or whether or not it's actually because I caught one of the power-ups that slows things down. So I only realised after I'd filmed the Amstrad bit that there had been, there was one of those kind of power-ups that actually did that. So oops, if I got that particular bit wrong. But anyway, like I said, it was just a opportunity to get everything back out on the sort of desk again. I love doing all these comparisons. I love playing on all these computers. I'm enjoying having every single one of them in my collection, and hopefully they seem to be really popular amongst you lot. And I hope to be able to get as many more done as possible in the future. Ones that are coming up, I have Bruce Lee, Night Law for all versions. As I said in the Commodore 64 segment, I don't know whether or not you want to see the videos I've already done, the comparison videos I've already done, rejigged to include the versions that aren't in there. Such, for example, the Night Law comparison just has the Amstrad, BBC and Spectrum. There, of course, are MSX versions, and last year there was a homebrew version released for the Commodore 64, which was an excellent version. Would you like to see all those kind of videos lumped together again, or just standalones and links to the original comparisons? It's up to you, really. I'm quite happy to do them all again. But like I say, I'll be sort of like led by what people think would be the best way to go about things. Anyway, that was Arkanoid for all those various computers. I hope you liked the video. If you did like the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. But as I say at the end of all these videos, if you do subscribe, please, please, please take the time to join in with the discussions and conversation. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about poking our memory glands and having a good old laugh about these things we used to play on these 30-year-old computers that still fascinate us. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. Have a great bank holiday weekend. Goodbye.